I'm Jennifer Inslee. I'm the Associate Dean of Instruction here at Edmonds Community College, and I'm here with two colleagues from our English for Academic Purposes program, and they have conducted a guided pathways project with the support of a college mini grant, and they're here to tell us about that today. So can you guys introduce yourselves and maybe how long you've been at the college and what English for Academic Purposes is for people that don't know?
Okay, I'm Katrina Lefrancois Hanson. I've been at the college since fall of 2012.
Hi everybody, I'm Christine Kobayashi and I'm currently the co-chair of the department, and I've been at Edmonds Community College since 2007, so I've been here a little bit. To elaborate on EAP, English for Academic Purposes, our program is really to support students who are getting ready to take English 101, essentially. So they are non-native speakers of English, and they are coming sometimes from the intensive ESL program. They're sometimes, coming from the ABE, the Adult Basic Education ESL program. And so they come to our program to get a little bit more support in the reading, writing skills, speaking and listening skills before they enter the English department and take English 101, 102, and so on. So that's our population.
Right, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to give a little overview of the Guided Pathways approach and then ask you to talk about your project. So one of the pillars of Guided Pathways is on-ramping students who place into pre-college math or English. And by that they mean really bucket classes, we call them, or stacked courses, but to do college level work at the same time they're receiving some kind of support for reading, writing, quantitative skills that some used to call remedial, but are now we call pre-college. So your project dealt with this aspect of Guided Pathways to look at accelerated learning by combining college level courses and pre-college level courses. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Another pillar of Guided Pathways is to clarify the transition from pre-college to college. So this is something that really speaks to the heart of Guided Pathways in a way that none of our other projects did. So can one of you talk about your key question? What is it you were trying to learn, find out, figure out?
All right, so our key research questions were, how well is the current accelerated learning community, or the ALC, that we are doing in EAP, which combines EAP 131, it's a college editing class, with an English class. We've done it with English 99, 100, and English 101. So how well does this ALC prepare students for a successful transition into the Guided Pathways, as well as how well are the alumni of this ALC progressing through their college education beyond where they leave us. So once they are in psychology, chemistry, any of their further classes, how are they doing compared to students who are not in this ALC? Are they succeeding more? Are they about equal? Where are they at in their
Progression
in college? Yeah.
And how far out are you tracking students who have participated in the ALC?
We started looking at students who started taking the ALC in winter of 2014. Okay. So slightly less than 2 years. So not a lot of students. That was one of the main limitations of our research, was the fact that just by nature of the fact that the ALC is new, we didn't have a lot of people that we could be looking at.
How many students?
There are approximately 100 students total that were in the ALC, and then we had, let me see, I have the number here somewhere, 300, there we go, 238 students who took just the EAP 131 outside of the ALC class.
Wow, that's some significant numbers if you can track them. Great, thank you. Do you want to talk about your findings? Like what, so of those 238 students and the 100 you're looking at and comparing, what did you find? What showed up?
So first of all, we had two different types of research, or two different types of data we were looking at. We got some help from Jim Mulick, and he gave us some transcript data looking at both students who were in the ALC and students who were in the standalone, or the SA 131 class. And we looked at how their grades compare with each other. Then we also sent out 3 different surveys. We sent out surveys to teachers who are in the English department, English 99, English 100 from a while ago, English 101,
Right,
and
we've
English
had a
102.
course name change in the middle of all this,
Yes,
right?
yes, we
Okay,
did, which
always
was fun.
handy.
So we sent out a survey to those teachers, asking them to compare their experience working with these 2 different groups of students. We sent out a survey to the standalone EAP 131 students, asking them about their experiences in
Oh, so you
EAP
got the
131.
students' perspective
Yes, we
too.
did.
Interesting.
As
Okay.
well as how well they felt prepared to succeed in their later classes. And then we did the same thing for the ALC students. We sent out a survey to them asking them, how well prepared did you feel? How much did this class help you to succeed in later classes? So we had 3 different surveys that we looked at there. Our general results, our conclusions that we came to. So again, we were dealing with low numbers of students, so we have to remember that we can't necessarily get really excited about how well students are doing, or really depressed if students aren't doing well, because we do have limited numbers, but we were able to make some general conclusions and some general ideas about how we should progress in this field. So looking at the classes that our students seem to be taking most, we found that in general, the ALC students and the SA students, their grades really kind of even out. In one class, maybe the ALC students tend to do better. In another class, maybe the SA students tend to do better. In general, they're passing at about the same rate for most of the classes, but the ALC students are doing this at an accelerated pace, and that accelerated pace is not harming them. They are succeeding even though their lessons are compressed, I guess.
What would have been their pathway, their pre-college pathway, if they had not participated in the accelerated learning community?
I'm going to pass that to Christina.
Yeah, so basically they would have had to take each course one at a time, 1 quarter at a time.
How many courses are we talking?
So we're only
generally?
talking 1 or 2, depending on which acceleration we did, because we had to, 1 quarter we did 99, 1 quarter we did 110, actually. So there was 1 quarter where 199 weren't available for the acceleration, so we got creative and did it with 110, which is a word origins class.
Right.
So that would actually removed 2 steps in that case. This quarter we're doing it with 101, so that would be 2 quarters shorter. So
instead of fall, winter, spring in a
one at a time,
they were
each
able
quarter.
to take the 2 of those quarters in one, or 3 of those
Exactly.
quarters in one.
let's see, so it would
Does
be,
it depend on their placement?
right.
Right, some of them could do 3 quarters.
It could be up to 3, right?
And that's what we mean by accelerated.
Right,
That you can
right.
compress. And so
Right.
those students who normally would have taken a year to complete that segment of their education before college level classes were challenged and supported, and they're still 2 years later doing as good, as well as the students who did not place in pre-college.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's significant. That's absolutely one of the guided pathways ideas and the theories is that if you challenge and support students in equal measure, they will perform, and that will show gains that stick, not just a 1 quarter bump. Because some of the research says, well, they do fine in that quarter. But then when students hit college level without the support, they tend to fall back into more challenging circumstances. So your research is showing, at least preliminarily here, that our students are faring quite well. Interesting.
And in fact, just to add one or 2 quotes from the teachers who took our survey, indicated that in fact they do better in the long run. So as they start to take courses like 102 and beyond, that actually their skills are even more enhanced. I mean, I don't know if you have a quote right there, but it does
That's from
ring a
your
bell.
survey of faculty.
Yeah, but in our report, we'll share that quote. And I think there were at least 2 instructors who
Yes.
commented
Let's
about
hear
it.
them if you have them.
Yeah,
Great.
we've got a
That's
few
great.
quotes.
Specifically, the quotes. Let me see. Okay, there we go. So this specifically the quotes that I have here really are. They focus on the idea of not necessarily English skills, but on student skills. And that was one area that we tried to differentiate.
Explain
with
the
our
difference
students.
in your mind.
So for us in the EAP program, our classes specifically teach English language skills. So we're teaching them how to write an English essay, how to read an academic article, decipher it, interpret it, and then use that in their own work.
Okay.
And then we're also teaching them editing, very solid strategies for them to be able to look at their writing and find and fix their errors, which is an incredibly difficult thing for them to do. And that's what the EAP 131 class is about. It's editing, and it is editing of not, I need to rely on my teacher, it's I need to rely on myself.
So really building the skills to
Yes.
always know
Exactly.
how to edit your own work. Okay.
Yes. So that's the English skills that we really focus on. But one thing that we've noticed, and one thing that, especially with this ALC class, and what the teachers have told us, is that the students, sometimes the main difference between the students who succeed and the students who don't is not so much a matter of that English ability, but in their student ability, in can they talk to teachers? Can they take notes? Do they read assignment sheets correctly? Do they understand what is being asked of them? And do they, if they don't, do they know what steps to take so that they can accomplish a task that their teacher gives them? So those are the two different areas of skills that we were asking teachers and students to write about. And so one of the things that we found was that in the ALC, students who took that ALC were more likely to have stronger student skills and be more likely to ask for help, to use the skills that they learned. They were better at deciphering homework assignments. They were better at talking to teachers when they did have problems. And that really made a big difference for whether or not they were able to succeed.
Theorize why.
I believe that it has to do with the fact that, most of these students, their English level is fine. A lot of the academic level, it's difficult for them, but if they have the skills to help themselves better understand it, then they can succeed. A lot of the times that we have students who don't pass, it's because they are not doing what is being asked. They're losing points that they don't need to lose because they don't understand what is being asked of them.
Was that an implicit or explicit message in the accelerated learning community? Those study skills.
We built it into
Yes.
the accelerated learning community.
Okay.
Very
And
much
in fact, introduced reading apprenticeship, pieces of reading apprenticeship to our course too, because we wanted students to have more tools accessible for tackling assignments and using the, such as talking to the text. So we encourage students to do that on their writing assignments for the course that they're taking in conjunction with ours. So this quarter 101, English 101, and so they bring their English 101 essay assignment directions, and we sit there and we do talk to the text with the class.
Wow.
And then we say, this is something you can continue to use, and this is a mechanism for communicating with your teacher. So these are questions that you can prepare and talk to your teacher about, like, oh, I don't understand this, or can you explain this vocabulary word, or what I think this means is blah, blah, blah. So
you're checking in on their level of comprehension and teaching really what it sounds like are metacognitive skills. Is how am I understanding this? Where does the understanding have gaps? And who can I go to for help with that?
And actually I have a quote from
Okay.
John Baumgartner.
He was here yesterday talking about his project.
He responded to our survey, and he had a wonderful quote, and he gave us permission to use it.
Great.
He said that those with good study skills tend to be prepared and able to learn what is needed to succeed at some level. Students with metacognitive skills, those who know how to learn, seem to be the best prepared. They often are ready to work hard and persist through challenges. And he went on to give a specific instance of a student who had been in the ALC, who her English level perhaps was not the highest in the class, but she knew how to learn, and she knew where her gaps were, and she was able to succeed in his
Wow.
class because of it.
So with the skills and the motivation and the support, these students continue to apply them in different contexts. That's really impressive. Wow. Yes.
I'd like to speak more to the initial question
Yeah.
too. I feel like something that happens too is just simply by having two classes that are connected. They're two teachers talking to each other more regularly, and students talking to both of those teachers about a similar message too, about the instructions for this assignment. So we've got just more voices and more involvement because there are two teachers there to help them.
Are
through
both
it,
teachers
so.
in the classroom each day?
No.
No.
Okay.
So
But they're on message because they're meeting, the teachers are meeting and making sure they're both in the same
Exactly.
message. Okay.
So this quarter, I am teaching the EAP 131 class, and Bill Cardy is teaching the English 101 class. We meet fairly regularly throughout the quarter, send emails, talk about specific students, and then every once in a while I'll say, all right, well, what are you guys working on? What can I be doing to help support the students? And sometimes he has good ideas for me. Sometimes he says, they're really doing pretty good, but I've noticed that maybe they need more work with punctuating citations.
So then you can target
So
some
then I can
curriculum
target
to
those
that.
skills
Okay.
that he has that he has seen in their work that they really need support in. And one thing that he has said is that what he's noticed, because he taught the same class with Christine last quarter, he taught the ALC class with her last quarter, is that the students in his classes that are a part of the ALC, the fact that they are spending more time in this communication, in this conversation about English and about the essays, he finds that their essays are often more thoughtful, more well thought out. They follow the directions better than their peers. So just the fact that, as Christine said, they are spending twice as much time on this subject matter, even though we are not always directly connecting the content, the fact that they are in this conversation for so long during the week, it does affect their work that they complete for him.
Interesting. So this is not exactly like an iBest model where both faculty are in the room every day with the same cohort of students. This is a community, a cohort still, but the teachers are in communication fairly frequently and on the same page in terms of metacognition, resilience, efficacy, learning how to learn, and we're seeing these results.
Yes.
Impressive. Okay. Do you want to
I
continue?
hope you don't mind if I add a little
No.
something else too. And I think it happened this quarter too, if I'm not mistaken. Bill, the 101 teacher, actually came to part of my class a couple of times where they were doing in-class editing of their essay. Maybe it was essay 1 and essay 2 last quarter.
An essay for his class or an essay
for
for
his
your
class? So they come to my class with essay 1. And they get into partners and edit, but Bill comes in about halfway through and he's walking around answering some
So they see
impromptu
him.
questions. He's
Wow.
there for a little bit, but not every day, for each class, but to have a little overlap contact time. I thought that really helped.
Did you do
even
that
if
this quarter?
Yes,
Yeah.
and every single time we did it their first essay, and then for every major assignment that they've had since then, I've asked them, would it be helpful for you to have Bill in class? And every single time it is a resounding yes.
Wow.
Like, get him in here.
It sends the message too that we are collaborating to support you.
Exactly.
We are both here for you.
Yeah.
That's really impressive. Wow. Okay.
That's great.
Right. Well, I have more questions. I have 2 more questions. Are you ready
Sure.
to move on?
Are we moving on beyond results yet? Because
We are,
Okay,
if you have more.
I've got 2 things that I do
yeah.
think that we need to that we do need to talk about.
Okay.
It was not all roses when
Got
we
it.
found our research.
Well, that's
We found that while the ALC students, many of the ALC students do continue to use these skills that we teach them in EAP, one comment that we got from many teachers was that students aren't doing it once they leave EAP. So we teach them these strategies for how they can edit their work, where they can go for resources, all that stuff. But they get to a point later on in their college education and they stop doing them.
Okay.
So one thing that we have kind of decided as a result of this research is that we need to figure out a way to encourage students to continue using these skills beyond EAP 131. They get points for doing the editing strategies in my class, so they do them, but we need to figure out a way, both from the student side, to increase their motivation to continue using these, as well as with the various faculty at this college, how can we help them encourage students to be using these
And I think that's a good
strategies?
point, that if we reinforce that on both sides of the equation. So if something we do in Triton Jumpstart is to start the conversation about efficacy, self-efficacy, and resiliency. Self-efficacy being the belief that I can do this even when it's challenging, and resiliency being the belief that I can bounce back when things don't go very well. So those two ideas we start, and as we train more faculty to embed that, or at least have that message be part of their just educational epistemology for how they teach, that's part of that equation for the faculty side. And we've seen interesting results of teachers doing more metacognitive in every single discipline across this campus. And realizing, like John Baumgartner has pointed out, the impact of that message, that it isn't just a pre-college issue to be efficacious and resilient or to have persistence and grit. It is a lifelong learner issue. And if faculty will embrace that all the way into the 4 years, and employers embrace it too, right, because it becomes a factor there, that's a world-changing dynamic. But then the student side, we have to be consistent there too, is that this isn't just to get you through or to get you points. This is a habit of mind. This is an intellectual process that we are trying to show you can increase your success no matter where you are or how old you are. So it's part of what Achieving the Dream tried to do, and I think fairly successfully, and I think as part of Guided Pathways as well. So.
From the student side of things,
Yeah.
on our student survey, we found that the students that were in the ALC tended to look more favorably upon EAP 131 than students who were in the standalone class.
Oh, interesting.
The students in the ALC were more likely to say that the class was helpful, the class was, it helped them succeed in their later classes, whereas the students in the standalone, we did have positive feedback from some students, but we also had far more negative responses of, this class didn't help me, why do I have to be doing this, it was a waste of my time. And what that really showed us was that the change in attitude that comes when they see the direct impact of this EAP 131 class on a class that they do care about. They need
English 101.
English
They
101.
get
They
credit
need
for
that
it.
college
College
credit.
class,
And
yeah.
they see this class helping them succeed at that. They understand it better, and they can they accept those ideas better. Whereas the standalone, it's something that we've talked a lot about in EAP 131, or in just in EAP department, is that EAP 131 is kind of a sad class. The students don't want to be there.
Wow.
They see it as a punishment, and instead of and as a result,
As
a lot of
the
times,
old school remediation, right?
Yeah.
is one of the reasons we have avoided a widespread required standalone college study skills class for students in pre-college is just what you're saying, is that our focus group showed that students who saw a bang for their buck, if you will, an immediate contextualized increase in their grades or outcomes in a discipline content area because they were being supported at the same time, much different experience than a decontextualized, here's how to manage your time.
yeah,
Here's how to take notes.
yeah.
Here's how to make an appointment with a teacher. And yet they're not making the appointment with the teacher. There's no real assignment to manage their time around. It's all practice and theoretical. If they can apply it, like in your accelerated learning community, immediately that just becomes, whoa, a payoff. And we all respond well to that.
Yes.
So this is interesting reinforcement for a lot of the theories we've been playing around with for quite a few years now.
Yeah. That was one of the things that I think hit me most, was this, with teaching this class versus the standalone. I've taught the standalone 131 class for a few years now. The first day of class, I was just hit by the change in attitude.
Wow.
And it's been wonderful.
We're helping you reach a goal,
Yes.
not just helping you learn some Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Right,
I hope you don't mind if I add
Right.
a little context to this whole idea to begin with. So, you know, Katrina's talked about how it's, you know, that the group is, you know, a little disenchanted at this point if they take a standalone 131.
Yeah.
And we got that sense even more so when we started looking at pathways back in 2012, 2013. We started looking at how are students doing in English 101 if they take this class and then this class and then this class and then this class. And interestingly, with all of these different sequences, when you add 131 to the mix, the success rate went down. And so we presented this information at the Achieving the Dream conference. We presented it at Building Community Day as a reason for concern, but also, gosh, we've got to do something about it. And that's kind of the birth of the ALC is the
your
result
response to
of
that problem.
this data. I mean,
Fantastic.
just to give you a sense of it, students who take 121 and then English 100, 88% success rate. So 88, I should define success as passing the course, basically.
With
so
a
getting a
2.0
2.0 to
is that-
4.0.
yeah, okay.
Exactly. 88% got a 2.0 or higher in 101 if they took 121 and then 100. However, you throw 131 in the mix and it drops 7 percentage points. That happens even more dramatically when students take EAP 100, 121, 131, 10% drop in the
So
success.
the longer they stay in a pre-college sequence that is not accelerated,
That's right.
the less likely they are to be successful.
That was very clear to us. So we
Wow.
thought we would do something about it.
Uh-huh.
And it's funny to look back at that conference and talk about this idea that we had. I mean, we really had only begun to talk to the English department about the idea, but to see it through, and we're encouraged to continue the work and continue this acceleration. So
So this is a collaboration with
absolutely,
EAP and English.
yes.
And both sides are pretty excited about the work, I think.
Absolutely. I feel like, just in the interactions with the faculty that I have worked with as the EAP 131 teacher, as the co-department chair, arranging the administrative parts to getting, classes that can connect and things like that, and faculty that want to work on this. So it's
moving from a culture of
Sure.
those are your students and these are our students, is a realization that these are our students.
Exactly.
And they're moving from EAP or Bridge here, pre-college. 80+% of our students are starting in pre-college. But the longer they stay and linger, or what the lingo is swirl, right? Because it's like a washing machine, they just sort of spin around. And if they don't succeed in a pre-college class and take it again, we add another barrier and delay.
Right.
So it's this fine line between not accelerating too quickly and forcing failure to not delaying too long
Right.
and making failure inevitable or disappearing. So it sounds like you have kind of hit the sweet spot of support, challenge, and time. At least we're figuring this out.
Definitely, I think so.
Working on it.
Yeah. It's
What's the
exciting.
way forward? How can what you've done in the last 2 years in this research, what's the way forward then for the college to continue to serve students and with restricted budgets and getting points in a funding model from moving from pre-college to college? How does this all fit into the mix?
Sure. Well, I mean, one thing that came out of the findings that we had were courses where students had a lower success rate compared to, let's see, what we were comparing to. So we found that, just to give you 2 courses right off the top, philosophy, and I didn't write down
Philosophy
the number.
101.
Philosophy 101, and then chemistry 121. It turns out those students, just in general, standalone 131 or the accelerated model, not as high a success rate. And again, success rate meaning 2.0, passing the class.
Okay.
So that made us think about the guided pathways too, and how perhaps we need to have a support class of 131 in the future that supports some of the higher enrollment, low completion courses in a STEM pathway, but then also in a social sciences pathway. So it just by chance, looking at the data, we found that, oh, philosophy. Okay, so maybe we should reach out to philosophy and talk more to the philosophy department, because they have 4 or 5 sections every quarter that run, and our students take them, and they're not doing as well. So we'd like to talk to the philosophy department. So that's kind of a next step for us as a department.
One of the other things that we saw with this was the extreme drop in students that take English 101 versus the ones that take English 102. English 101 had 455 total students during the quarters that we were looking at. English 102 only had 335 students. So not all of our students need to take English 102.
I see.
And so if they're not English majors, then we need to start looking in other ways of how can we be supporting students in their pathways, how can we be meeting their needs, and that was where that looking at different classes like philosophy and possibly chemistry, those were the 2 classes that we saw the potential for a need.
So a next phase might be a pilot with those departments and faculty, and seeing if this would have the same effect.
Exactly, and maybe looking at a 2 or 3 credit class rather than 5 credits. I mean, this is still just an idea. These are brainstorms coming out of what we found, but if we took the 131 class as it is, what we're doing right now, we still do things that aren't, directly connected to assignment 1, assignment 2, assignment 3, and 101. So we still have some units that are, devoted to the curriculum of just any 131 class. But if we were to scale that down and really let it be only a support for the class that it's linked to, whether it be chemistry or philosophy, maybe a 3-credit course where it really is, okay, editing skills for these assignments and
using
study
the
skills.
Content
Exactly,
of those courses.
just the content of those courses, rather than having some of our own, which we still do right now with even our accelerated learning community 131. So